A warm welcome to this week Renewal Nugget. I want to bring this idea and question what to do when we're trying to pray or be silent at night, and all of a sudden we are flooded with thoughts or emotions, or even when we say the words of prayers, we are not fully engaged in them. Or if you're trying to be silent and do a Jesus prayer or a contemplative practice, our mind is distracted. And chances are that you might have had a really busy day and coming from work, or if you work from home, you might have had many family commitments afterwards, or maybe phone calls from different friends and whatnot. And when you try to relax, one more thing happened that took your effort. And when the day is over, and I bet that you probably heard that many times all sorts of unwanted thoughts or feelings, maybe even coming from the evil one, and you're trying to fight with them in order to suppress them. Or you might have heard advice even from mental health forums and whatnot that if you do enough self-care, you should feel calm and your emotions and thoughts should come down at the end of the day. Maybe you even heard, oh, maybe I should use a lavender tea, or maybe aromatherapy, or maybe I need to eat certain things in order to calm myself down. All this is great. And nonetheless, there's a reason why for some people, all those techniques don't work. And I bet that you even have had situations where you felt good for a while and you got into a good rhythm, to only lose the rhythm and get into those situations where you do try to pray and stay connected with God at night. It's impossible. I will really unpack today what exactly is happening that keeps us in the cycle by using sound psychological methodologies that helps us understand how thoughts and emotions are working. And if you don't know me, I'm Dr. Ioana Popa from Team for the Soul, and I like to bring this unique blend between science, psychology, spiritual care, non-denominational, but also ancient Christian faith. And I invite you to join our weekly Renewal Nuggets, this oasis in the midst of action, as you regenerate and as you renew while you serve and you help other people to make this world a better place. All right, so let's jump right in. What is happening in terms of our thoughts and our emotions, especially after a busy day? There's a very interesting phenomenon that is becoming more and more clear nowadays, that we have different types of intelligence. In other words, we have a logical intelligence at a mind level, logic, cause and effect. We have an emotional intelligence, and we also have a body intelligence, and there's many nuances as well. Musical intelligence, athletic, math intelligence, interrelational intelligence, so on and so forth. But what's interesting is that our emotions have particular ways that they behave, and they have different needs. They're not really logical. That belongs to the logical intelligence. So many times what happens is that we have really long days, especially for serving others, and our nervous system gets really activated. Our emotions can get activated. And what happens, our brain, our mind is trying to create stories and trying to create meaning out of this in such a way to help us relax. Now, many times those stories that we end up telling ourselves to interpret what's happening with the stress, they're not always helpful, and then many times they are conditioned. And at some level, we might not be even aware of what those stories are. So at this point, it's irrelevant what the stories are. But the key here is that when the emotions and stress level is heightened, our mind is going to go really fast, trying to spin, trying to make sense, and trying to calm ourselves down. Now, we live in a culture where we use our brain and mind, so to speak, the logical mind, all day long for most of us. And because of it, the mind is really overworked. So all this energy, all this stress that the mind is trying to really manage is becoming too much after a full day of work. So what happens is when we finally have some time to settle in the evening, and we might say, okay, I want to go to bed now, I'm really tired, but I do want to read my prayers and connect with God. what happens, the mind, all of a sudden in our system, we get into this space when there's almost like a decompression. And what happens, the mind is going to still be spinning. So as we're praying, we might think of the day that's just wrapping up, or we might start worrying about tomorrow. And it is important to know that our mind needs some time to settle. So before you jump right into doing your prayer, it is important that you spend some time to allow this activity at the mind level to really calm down. Now, for most people, we do this instinctively by watching Netflix or watching a movie or playing a video game. But interestingly, that doesn't help. It feels relaxing, but the mind is still busy and engaged again with another content. And it doesn't have time for this random kind of activity to allow it to settle. So it's much more helpful to, if you want to stop and relax before you actually start praying, to just spend a few minutes in silence and unhook from your thinking. Allow the thoughts to kind of move in and out without hooking on them, without staying with them. So one way to do that is just to, when you sit down for a minute or two or five, to just allow your thoughts and visualize them, seeing them, sensing them, almost like clouds in the sky. So take a little bit of a distance and notice your thought. Oh, I'm thinking about the day. Oh, now I'm going in the future. Oh, now this is my next thought. And just notice how the thoughts are moving quickly from one topic to another. Now, if we allow that for quite a while to settle and dissipate, it allows the mind to settle. Now, many times though, what's going to happen when the mind is settling is the emotions are starting to pile up. So, and they're going to reverberate. So we might experience now maybe more annoyance or more anxiety or nervousness from the day or sadness, whatever that is. So it is important to know that when you unhook from the mind, to just allow also your feelings some space and just witnessing them without getting into the story. The key here is not to get into the story and just allow this movement to unfold, almost like feeling in a storm and you being the eye of the storm, just observing with no judgment, with no self-criticism. And once we settle, that can allow us to be more clear. First of all, if we do have a need or a longing or a worry, you might get more clarity. So when you do start praying, you can be more intentional about it and really put your whole being into it. To separate from the mind, to separate from the thoughts and from the emotions, to find that sense of release and that sense of peacefulness, so that when you're trying to connect with God, it's actually going to happen. And until next time, I say goodbye for now.